Delve into the risks of buy now, pay later. Loans made through issuers like Affirm, Klarna, and Afterpay help consumers afford bigger purchases, but those companies don't report their lending activity to major credit bureaus, making them harder to track and harder for economists to account for in their projections. For more, let's bring in Ted Rossman. He's a senior industry analyst at Bankrate. Ted, great to have you with us. Are the fears about this sort of phantom debt, are they overblown, or is this something to be worried about?
I think it's a legitimate issue. It's interesting, though, how the delinquency rate for buy now, pay later has been so much lower than people have projected. For years now, there's been talk about, oh my gosh, there's going to be all these delinquencies and they're not that selective about credit quality. Affirm just reported their earnings and their delinquency rate of 2.4% is considerably lower than the credit card delinquency rate of about 3%. So I actually think that's been a silver lining. I mean, there's no doubt that sometimes people can get into trouble with buy now, pay later and overspend, and they could with credit cards as well. But late payments have not been as big of a deal as a lot of people feared for buy now, pay later.
Is there any research? I'm just wondering if consumers feel like it's doable to pay off that buy now, pay later slice, but not pay off their credit card.
People like the built-in light at the end of the tunnel of buy now, pay later. So they know exactly how many payments for exactly how long. The classic use case has been 4 interest-free payments over 6 weeks, although some of these providers are going much longer than that, maybe 6 months, a year, 2 years, sometimes even longer than that, and sometimes now with interest. I mean, some of these providers, like Affirm, it could be interest-free or it could be all the way up to 36%. So I think there's a lot of variability there. In general, though, I get the sense that consumer demand is very much there, and people like this as an alternative to credit cards. They like knowing exactly how much they owe for exactly how long. The average credit card rate, we should mention, is close to a record high. It's 20.66%. So that's something that people are using buy now, pay later as an alternative.
Ted, it's Karen. Thanks for being on. Has there been a sort of migration of who the original buy now, pay later customers were, and maybe they were maybe in a little bit better financial position and now has morphed into somewhat of a different credit cohort?
Conventional wisdom is that buy now, pay later is for young people without much credit and without much money because, in some ways it's almost like a debit card with financing privileges. It's short term. It's not this big open-ended credit line like a credit card. It's easier to get. It's often very short term. We've seen some movement up market, like Affirm has had a famous partnership with Peloton for a while, which that's more of kind of the Henry set, the high earners, not rich yet. Although in general, I would say buy now, pay later does still skew younger, lower income, lower credit quality. I think it's interesting that companies like Affirm and Klarna have physical payment cards now that you can use in person, like at the grocery store or the gas station, and turn that into a buy now, pay later plan. It's not just online commerce anymore.
Since these loans aren't reported to credit agencies, do we have a sense of how many consumers actually have multiple buy now, pay later loans across various platforms and what that might look like in a scenario in which the economy may not be as good and employment may not be as high?
There are a lot of repeat customers and loyal fans, which I think could be a good thing or a bad thing. I do think more credit reporting is needed. I mean, I do think it would be useful for buy now, pay later lenders to know if you've fallen behind on a plan with one of their rivals. And also, I think that would be useful for a credit card lender or a car lender or a mortgage lender. They're not there yet for a few reasons. But I think a surprising incentive for people to pay on time is the ability to continue to use these plans. I think that carrot has proven to be more useful than the stick approach, which is punishment, dinging your credit, which is rare unless you go to collections in the buy now, pay later world. Late fees are not as much of a thing. Even in the credit card world, those are about to go down dramatically because of a CFPB action. So I actually think the incentive of continuing to use this has been remarkably efficient for these providers.